What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Zero Lab. Today, we're taking a look at the results of a massive online TCG Pocket tournament that just ended over this past weekend, and the results are really cool to take a look at. This was like a regional-sized event for TCG Pocket online with $400 in cash prizing. So, very cool event. And we're going to take a look at some of the top lists coming out of this event. Talk about them a little bit and kind of give our thoughts on the current Pocket meta coming out of this tournament. So we're going to start with the top 8 lists, and coming in here at 8th place, we have Charizard Arcanine. This deck is a pretty standard list. It's got a 2/2/2 Charizard line with a 2/2 Arcanine EX, and then 2 Moltres as well. 2 Leaf in here to help with those retreat costs. Charizard, Arcanine, and Moltres all have a 2 retreat cost. 2 research in here. 2 X speeds for helping retreat out of Charmanders and Growlithe early, so you can get into those Moltres EX to start using that Inferno Dance. And then 2 Pokeballs. So this list seems really, really cool. Obviously, Charizard EX is the strongest attacker in the game, can one-shot anything once you get it powered up. It's just a matter of powering it up. And the Moltres EX helps with that a lot. And then the Arcanine EX is really good into into those basic EX decks like Celebi and Pikachu, one-shotting those with that Inferno Onrush attack. So this is a really cool list. We'll take a look here at the matches that this player played against. Looks like they hit a good amount of Gardevoir Mewtwo. They beat a bunch of those and tied one to get into the top 32. And then there were a few grass decks in here as well. Their only loss looked to be to a Pikachu, which makes sense with that Moltres weak to Lightning. And if you don't get into your Arcanine early enough against something like Pikachu, you can be in trouble if you fall behind in that matchup. Then we're seeing some fighting decks in here as well that they took down, and then eventually losing in top 8 to the Gyarados Greninja deck. So very cool deck list here in that top 8. We're going to move on to 7th place, which was an Exeggutor EX with a Mew EX and Celebi EX deck. So we'll take a look at this quick. Looks like a 2/2 execute line in here, waiting on those images to load. 1 second. Might need to refresh this page. Let's try that again. Taking a while to load here, the image. So we're just going to look at this. So it's a 2/2 Exeggutor line with a 1 of these non-EX Exeggutors that's got the Stomp attack. That's very similar to the EX attack. It does 40 plus 40 more for heads. This does 30 plus 30 more for heads. So that's a pretty cool one prize attacker in here. And then a 1 Celebi. Obviously, Celebi's a powerful bloom attack is really strong. As soon as you get, 4 energy on there is about the point where that becomes a very, very, very strong attack. But just with the 2 energy on there, it's a fine opening attack. But if you can set up Celebi behind Exeggutor EX, which is a big bulky Pokemon with these Ericas and potions in here, you can start swinging for a lot of damage with Celebi. And then Mew EX in here as well as another good backup attacker. Rounding out the list, there's 2 Sabrina, 2 Erica, 2 Research, 1 Leaf, 1 Giovanni, a 2 Potion, 2 Pokeball, and an X Speed. So this seems like an overall pretty solid list. We'll take a look at their matches here. Looks like their loss was to an Charizard Arcanine, and then in top 8 they lost to Gardevoir Mewtwo. But they took down a wide range of decks on the way there. Beating a Pidgeot, beating some Gardevoir Mewtwo's, beating some Greninja, Gyarados decks, and beating that Golem Dredagon deck that sort of people have been hyping up as well. So cool 7th place list there. Going on 6th place, we have the Gyarados Greninja deck with the Dredagon. This is a pretty standard list here, but that Rampaging Whirlpool obviously doing 140 on Gyarados with 180 HP on a stage 1 Pokemon is really strong. Combine that with the additional damage that your opponents are going to take from attacking into your Druddigons with the Rough Skin ability that says if it's in the active spot and your opponent's Pokemon does damage to it, they take 20 damage. And then the 20 damage from Water Shurikens once you get those Greninjas set up. Gyarados is really, really, really strong. It's a cool 6th place list there. We'll take a look at what they lost to. It looks like it was just Lightning decks, 2 Pikachu decks that they lost to here. They were able to take down 2 Pikachu decks, 2 other Pikachu decks though. Beat a Celebi, beat a Mirror, beat a Charizard, beat some Mewtwo's. But yeah, it looks like the Lightning decks are the weakness here for the Gyarados. Moving on to 5th place, we have a Gardevoir Mewtwo. This looks like a pretty standard list. 2-2-2 line of the Gardevoir, 2 Mewtwo EX, 1 Mew EX. 2 Research, 2 Leaf, 2 Blue is pretty interesting. 1 Sabrina, 1 Giovanni, 2 Pokeball, and 1 of those Mythical Slabs. Personally, I'm just on the 2 Mythical Slab train. Why not? That card is insane for this deck specifically, just finding your Curlias and Gardevoirs quicker. I also do really like potions in the deck. I think blue seems really good, again, for mirrors. And let's see here. If we go to metagame, I mean, Gardevoir Mewtwo was like 13% of the meta, and it was 21% of the top 32. So it makes sense to tech for the mirror a little bit, and blue does a really good job of that so that your opponents' Mewtwo's don't one-shot your Mewtwo's with that side drive attack. But I do like some potions in here as well. One Sabrina, 1 Giovanni makes sense. And then, yeah, I would play the 2 Mythical Slabs. Those blues are really good. Again, teching for the mirror. I like potions in here. I think just saving your Mewtwo and healing off some early chip damage against your Mewtwo is really good. But that is our 5th place list. Looks like their losses were to a Pikachu and then the Aerodactyl Primeape deck that also did really well, which we will cover at the end because it didn't end up in top 8 actually, but it did do really, really well as well. Moving on, we have our 4th place deck. It is another Gyarados deck. This one, I think this one's a little bit different than the last one that we looked at. But a 2-2-2 line here of the Research, Misty, and Leaf, and then 2 Pokeballs. Let's take a look. Did the other one... The other one played an X speed instead of a second Leaf. So that makes sense. This one just played 2 Leaf instead of a 1-1 split of Leaf and X speed. They had 3 losses here. They lost to a Pikachu and a Celebi in Swiss rounds, and then they eventually lost to a Pikachu in top 4. So again, it looks like Gyarados is a deck that I think is favored into pretty much everything except the Pikachu decks. The Lightning decks are definitely tough for it, but this is a really, really strong archetype. Moving on to our 3rd place list here in the top. 3rd place and 2nd place were both Pikachu. The 3rd place Pikachu list had that 2-2 Zebstrika line in there, then 2 Pikachu EX, 2 Zapdos EX, then 1 Dedenne. This new Dedenne is really cool. It has the Thundershock attack. It's basically just a better Pincurchin that we played before the Mythical Island set released. Thundershock does 10 damage, flip a coin. If heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralyzed, so that's a really strong sort of stalling strategy. 2 Sabrina, 2 Research, 1 blue, 1 Leaf, 1 Giovanni, and then 2 X Speed and Pokeball. Their matchups here, they lost to 3 decks. One of them was the Exeggutor EX, Celebi EX, then a Mirror, and they eventually lost to a Gardevoir Mewtwo in top 4. Then our finalist list for Pikachu Zebstrika looks to be pretty much the same. Yeah, they played some potions instead of the blues, and they did not play... Let's see, let's go back to this one. Yeah, they didn't play a Leaf, and they played some potions that the other deck did not play. Their matchups, they lost to 3 things. They lost to a Gardevoir Mewtwo in Swiss rounds, 2 Gardevoir Mewtwo's in Swiss rounds, and then a Gardevoir Mewtwo in the finals. So very cool to see Pikachu is still doing well despite the new decks. Then our champion deck is Gardevoir Mewtwo. This deck is just really strong now. They're playing a 2-2-2 Gardevoir line, 2 Mewtwo EX, and then opting for the Jinx over Mew EX, which I also think is fine. I personally think I would play Mew EX, but they won the tournament, so who am I to say? The Jinx is really cool, obviously, with the Celebes having a ton of energy attached to them because of the Superior's ability. Jinx, as a 1-prize Pokemon, hits for really, really strong numbers for just 2 energy, so that seems fine. There's other Pokemon out there like a Gyarados that are going to have a ton of energy on them as well. So Jinx does make a little bit of sense in this meta as well. 2 research in here, then 1 Giovanni, 1 Sabrina, 1 Leaf. Then they're doing the 1/1 split of Leaf and X speed, 2 Pokeballs, 2 Mythical Slabs, and then red card. So maybe these decks just can't fit potions anymore now that Mythical Slab is out, and Mythical Slab is just so good. But I would definitely be playing 2 Mythical Slab, and then maybe looking for a way to fit 2 potions still in Mewtwo. But yeah, that was the champion deck. They tied 1 and lost 1. They tied, ID'd a mirror, and then they lost a mirror, but that was their only losses in this tournament. So very cool to see this regional sized event for TCG Pocket. But I want to take a look at a couple of other unique decks. We didn't see any Celebi Superiors in the top 8, but here in the top 16, we did have 1 Celebi Superior. They're playing the 1/1 line of Exeggutor EX in here. That makes sense to me. 2 Ericas, 2 Research, 1 Sabrina, 2 Pokeball, 2 X Speed, and 1 Potion. This is just, Exeggutor EX is just a good chunky Pokemon to set up behind when we're trying to set up the Superiors and those Celebis. So that makes sense to me. Just a better turn 2 attacker than Celebi for sure, for the most part. So that was the top 16 Celebi Superior. And then we had a really cool deck that was doing really, really well in the tournament, but ended up losing. Where did they lose? They ended up losing in the top 16. And this is a Primeape Aerodactyl deck, and I think this shows off a really cool new card from the Mythical Island expansion, which is this Primeape that just has Punch that does 50 for 1 fighting energy. I think that's a really strong attack on this Primeape. Fighting type is pretty good in the game. In terms of like the weaknesses it can hit, although our attackers for fighting types normally aren't that great. But we do have the Revenge Marshadow as well, which is good, and the new Aerodactyl with the Primeval Law ability that keeps your opponent from evolving in the active spot. Hitmonlee is also a really strong Pokemon that just does 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Being able to bench snipe on a basic for 1 energy is really strong, and a really good way to finish off something that you've already damaged with like Primeape Aerodactyl or Marshadow. So this was a really cool deck that was doing really well in the tournament. Sadly lost in the top 16, so didn't get much further than that, but was pretty much undefeated, was undefeated up until that point. So very, very cool deck here as well, showing off some of those new cards from the Mythical Island. Anyway, this is really cool to see these online tournaments. I think that this is really cool and a really good sign for the competitive side of Pocket. The more we get new sets and new cards and new mechanics in the game, the better things are going to be for the competitive side of things. And if we can continue getting such large attendance at these online tournaments, I wouldn't be surprised if someday we see Pocket in the in the world circuit for sure. That would be really cool to see. I think the game is making them a lot of money. So yeah, I think that there is a chance we could see this in the world circuit. And just another thing to note here, pricing breakdown was first place got $150, second place got $60, top 4 got $35, top 8 was $20, and top 16 was $5. Really cool to see like actual cash tournaments happening for Pocket. Like you can actually make some money playing Pocket. So that is super, super cool. Happy that these tournaments are happening. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope it gave you some insight into the current Pocket meta, some ideas for new decks that you might want to try out. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video.